influence what we can.
Yeah. Now we'll get into your resigning as police minister and that, but I just want to ask you, around that whole thing of being fired and that, do you feel in any way, at any stage, you were treated unfairly, and why do you want to tell your side of things now?
Oh, look, it's the rules are the rules. The cabinet manual is a guideline. It's not a legislated piece of, it's not an act of parliament that means if you follow it, then you end up in court or whatever. They are guidelines, but the cabinet ministers are expected to follow them. Yeah. I did break the rules. Other ministers have broken the rules themselves, but in this particular situation, it is what it is. I accept that, and I've moved on.
And the process of being fired, how was that fair?
Oh, look, it is what it is. It doesn't matter if it's fair or unfair.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's liberating in a way. I'm disappointed in the way it happened.
Yeah.
But it means that, as mentioned, a whole lot of other opportunities are opened up.
So one could say that your cabinet troubles began when you resigned as police minister after revealing on radio that you had spoken to the police commissioner 2 years prior about a court case and also criticising a judge's decision. You were once again there deemed to have breached the cabinet manual. Do you accept that as well? Because in the beginning you didn't think you had done anything wrong, but I think, has that changed? Do you think you did?
Look, the interesting thing is politicians are not supposed to criticise the judiciary. In our country, the judiciary are held up as sort of, beyond reproach.
Yeah.
And, the firearms legislation is something that I took through as a Minister of Police. I spoke, obviously, a number of times on this legislation in Parliament. And because of the nature of how this came about, I spoke in the community a lot about the changes we were making. I felt that the judge who had imposed the sentence on a person who had broken quite, egregiously the legislation, I felt that the sentence this person had been given was manifestly unfair, i.e. it was far too lenient compared to the breaches and compared to what I had been saying in the community.
Yeah.
Now, I suppose the question is, if the minister responsible for that legislation can't criticise a judgment, then who can? The police can't. But, not technically, I am not supposed to criticise judges. But who holds judges to account in the end? Now, I got that wrong because I did criticise a judge. There was another way about it. Perhaps I could have gone to the Prime Minister and said, hey, look, this is a manifestly unfair judgment. It's way too light. It's not what I had planned. It's not what I had communicated in all my speeches. Keep in mind, judges can use, when deliberating, what ministers have said in their speeches during Parliament. But, again, I got that wrong. Phoning Andy, that is something, for Andy Costa, the police commissioner.
Police commissioner,
yeah. Yeah, that is something I completely underestimated. So when I called him, I wasn't the Minister of Police. Andy is a good friend of mine. He had been heavily involved in the firearms buyback. I gave him a call, and as Andy himself said, he just saw it as someone venting.
Yeah.
That's what I was doing. It was like, Andy, this sentence, this is a guy who had illegal firearms, illegal ammunition. He didn't have a licence. He had other firearms, again, without a licence. And the judge said, because you're not a gang member, I'm not going to send you to jail. Well, that was never part of the rationale. The rationale was we want people to do the right thing. If you have illegal firearms and illegal ammunition, and certainly if you didn't have a licence, then there was an expectation, and certainly I'd communicated this very, very clearly during the gun buyback and during the legislative process. Yeah. You faced up to 5 years in jail.
Yeah. So who should judges be accountable to?
I don't know. And this is the thing. I mean, they're obviously accountable to the public.
Yeah.
But if a minister responsible for the legislation that's gone through, who knew it intimately, can't criticise a judge's decision, then who can? And it's a question that maybe needs to be debated by society. Now, I did get that wrong. I knew the rules at the time.
Yeah.
So this was a calculated risk by me, which absolutely did not pay off. And I regret that. But what I woefully underestimated is making a phone call to Andy when I wasn't Minister of Police and asking him, are the police going to appeal this? They didn't appeal it. Andy Costa, the police commissioner, is a very smart man. I knew that a phone call from me to Andy was never going to sway him. I haven't got that influence. B, I haven't got that legislative influence.
Yeah.
But C, as mentioned, this is just a guy venting to a commissioner who had similar interests. But, again, I got that wrong. And that's why I tendered my resignation in the police portfolio.